Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome back to the Monday Messages. I'm Katie J, and I help women manifest their lives, their best lives, transform their lives, but without the struggle of limiting beliefs, doubts, and fear. And that last portion right there, the without the struggle of limiting beliefs, doubts, and fears, is what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about shadow work. I just did a whole training on shadow work, which is hanging out on my Instagram account at Womanifester. And it's in the highlight called shadow work. So it's just going to stay there right there on a bubble on my Instagram front page so that you can go back and reference it anytime. I'm going to reference it throughout this week's Monday messages, and then also next week's, because what I've done is I created a list of 10 clues that you need to do shadow work, 10 clues that you are going through the struggle of limiting beliefs, fears, and doubts when it comes to your life, when it comes to your manifestations. So what we're talking about today are the clues that you need that. But if you want to learn more about shadow work or what it means, I would love it if you went and checked out my Instagram story highlights and read about it there. I bought this as a joke, as a onesie from Walmart. I bought it as a joke, but it turns out it's really comfortable and really warm. And so I've got the fire going, but right now it's Sunday and I'm just hanging out in my jammies. So without further ado, I'm just going to get started by reading something that I wrote earlier this week when I was like really in the flow state of creation for this shadow work training. And I want to read to you guys what is a shadow. And then I'm going to tell you the first 5 clues that you need to do shadow work. And next week, I'm going to share a section of a book that I just have always referenced throughout my work as a spiritual mentor. It's a book called Eastern Body, Western Mind. And we're going to read about shadow work from that book next week and see what Anodea Judith has to say about shadow work in the chakra system. Sound fun? Great. Okay, so here is some of my writing about what is your shadow. Souls don't have shadows. Humans have shadows. It's important to remember that what we discuss going forward is not you. Your shadow is not you. You are a soul having a human experience. Your shadow, by definition, is a result of the human condition. I talk about that in the training that I did on Instagram and how literally, what is your shadow? It's light coming at you, hitting your body and creating that dark space behind you. So in this way, your shadow truly is a reflection of your human form, but not necessarily your soul, not necessarily your essence. If you have a heartbeat, you have a shadow. But at your essence, in your most authentic form, there is only light. There is only love, abundance, peace, and joy. Shadow work is how we get back to our true essence. It removes the layers of unhealthy conditioning that we've picked up over the years that our soul has occupied this human body. Okay, so that's just some writing that I did that I felt I wanted to share with you guys because it's a deeper way of understanding both your shadow and shadow work. It's a more spiritual way of understanding it. And I feel like the people who are on this thread who are interested in Monday messages are open to those types of things and those alternative perspectives. So I'm going to keep giving them to you until you tell me to stop. Tell me what you want. Okay, so here are 5 clues that you need to do shadow work. Number 1, you keep manifesting the same unhealthy relationships or the same patterns within relationships. So that doesn't necessarily mean romantic relationships. It can and does, but it also means friendships. It also means your work environment. It means roommates. So if you start to attract a lot of people who are overly aggressive or micromanage you or whatever it is, there is probably a shadow that you have not resolved and integrated into your life. Number 2, other people affect your mood, energy, and actions. That includes not doing something, not going forward with your plan or with your dreams or with your manifestations because you fear what other people will say or what other people will think of you. So you're letting other people dictate your actions. Maybe you let other people dictate your mood. Like, oh my gosh, I know if I go to work, this person's going to be so annoying. And, I have to work with this person on Mondays and I hate working with this person. So I'm going to be in a grumpy mood all day. That is a sign that you are giving away your power and there's some shadow work to do. Number 3, you are triggered by something. I shared this in the shadow work training. I used to be very, very, very triggered by my dad. He is so steadfast and like, there's only one way. This is the way, my way or the highway kind of thing. And for the longest time that triggered me. And I was like, bro, why can't he just compromise or like understand or see my perspective? But what I hadn't resolved deep down, in this scenario, in this situation, I hadn't resolved the fact that like, I really wanted to be that steadfast in my belief system. I really wanted to, have so much, so like be completely saturated in the way that things are, right? Like the way that things are is that everything is working out for me all the time. And like I wanted and I craved that level of certainty in my own spiritual life and in my own manifestation journey. And he had that and it bothered me. And that was a shadow I had to resolve and with my coach, with my mentor, and use that as fuel for moving forward and integrating it into my life. Number 4, you can't seem to stop thinking about blank, and insert in that blank, insert topic of negative internal chatter. So you can't stop thinking about how much in debt you are, or you can't stop thinking about how you want to leave the person that you're with, or you can't stop thinking about how much you dislike your manager, like whatever it is, whatever keeps popping up, when you meditate regularly and you start to create that practice of watching your thoughts, you will notice those thoughts that reoccur regularly and that are very unhelpful or that shift your energy into a low vibration state. So when you're aware of those patterns, you can say, oh my gosh, there's something here that I haven't resolved. This is a shadow that I've shoved down really deep into my psyche and refused to resolve. And here it is biting me in the ass because I'm thinking about it all day long and it's haunting me. Okay, so you can't stop thinking about that one thing. That's number 4. And the 5th and final one that I will share with you today is, and I'll share the next 6 through 10 next week on the Monday messages, because I try to keep these guys short. So the 5th one is a shitty situation or encounter happens and you act like nothing happened. I'm going to read that again. Number 5 clue that you need some shadow work. A shitty situation or encounter occurs. A shitty encounter with your manager or with your coworker or with your mom. And you act like nothing happens. You just say, I'm just going to forget that happened. And I want to just shift into a high vibration state. I want to, go back to normal. So I go and listen to my favorite song. And you don't resolve that energy. I can tell you from experience, it's going to hang out in your energy field. It's going to influence your work. It's going to influence your relationships, not just the relationship with the person who that encounter happened with. So I'll give you guys a real life example. A few weeks ago, I was meant to be on someone else's podcast, and then she was going to be on my podcast. Within the same day, she was going to record me on her podcast first, and then I was going to record an interview, myself interviewing her for my podcast. And after we hopped off the phone call in the morning when she interviewed me for her podcast, she basically said that the interview wasn't good enough to post. And I immediately wanted to be like, my immediate response to her was like, thank you so much for telling me. I totally understand. Like, I've been there before as a podcaster where you've recorded something and you're like, I can't post this. It's just not up to the quality of sound, or my audience will be interested or whatever. So I really respected her for bringing that to my attention and being honest, but she was so uncomfortable doing it, and it made me really uncomfortable. Like, she wasn't like steadfast in her way. She was like, I want to apologize. Like, I feel so bad. I don't want to sound awful. Like, and so it ended up shifting me into this like, oh no, gosh, it's fine. Like, it's okay. Like, we can cancel both interviews. Like, you just honor you, you do you. And it took me 2 weeks to actually like bring this conversation up to my mentor and say like, this is what happened. And this is how I tried to learn from it and tried to shift from it and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, but Katie, did you integrate it? Did you write about it? Did you journal about it? Did you meditate on it? Did you feel the feelings that wanted to come up from that situation, and ask them what they wanted from you and ask them how you could support them further in the future? And I was like, shit, no, I didn't do that. And so we did it right there on the phone, which, I mean, there was an emotional release. There were tears, like there was, and that's okay. That's part of shadow work. When you bring those things up to the surface, you're going to have to resolve them. You're going to have to look at them and say, how did this make me feel? Like, what part of me was hurt in that situation? And what part of me is never hurt, doesn't, give away her energy like that? How can she come in and like mother in this situation? How can she come in and nurture in this situation so that those feelings are truly felt and not just stuffed down and covered up by high vibration energies? So that's what shadow work is all about, is taking these situations and not just saying like, oh no, it's fine. Like, she's doing her. And like, there were self-worth issues that came up, because self-worth is something that I'm constantly working on and building upon. It's not a one-time fix thing, right? It's, let's continue to, anytime something happens, there's a process you can go through that will help you to fully integrate that situation into both your emotional body, and then release it out so that it's not stuffed in and attracting future unwanted situations, energies, relationships, that kind of thing. So those are 5 clues. I'm going to go over them one more time. 5 clues that you need to do shadow work. You keep manifesting the same unhealthy relationships, either romantically, platonically, with friends, with work, and your parent life, with your landlords. Number 2 clue that you need to do shadow work: other people affect your mood, energy, and actions in a way that's destructive to the manifestations that you want, to the life that you desire. Number 3, you're triggered by a situation. And number 4, you can't seem to stop thinking about X, Y, and Z negative internal chatter topic. And number 5, a shitty situation or encounter happens and you act like nothing happens. You don't fully process the energies that were released, the emotions, the fears and limiting beliefs and doubts that were triggered in that situation. You didn't integrate it going for future success, really. So those are 5 clues. And then next week, I'm going to talk about shadow work one more time and share with you guys some really beautiful passages from Anna Dea Judith, who is one of my spiritual mentors, who really just breaks down another way of seeing your shadow, which is in the parts of yourself that you have shoved deep down and never taught how to really feel those emotions, really, truly. So if you are interested in these types of topics, I highly recommend her book, Eastern Body, Western Mind. All right, you guys, I'll see you next week. I'm Katie J, and have a great week.